past 12 months, there has been much work undertaken to pave the way for the smooth transition to those ETBs, and that will continue for the next 12 months. And while we may have reached the end of the beginning, we're only beginning the in-depth work towards the integration of systems, staffs and procedures, which will result eventually in a coherent, integrated ETB, and perhaps we'll be at that place by Congress 2014. The development of a common logo and a single web portal heralds a new era of cooperation between ETBs. And we'll be, at the very end, I'll be doing a small demonstration here of our own logo that we'll be launching shortly. And this trend will continue, this whole shared services mentality, working together, the fact that we have a common logo across all the effective recognizable logo. We want that to be a brand of quality. That's the idea. Build it as a brand of quality. And at national level, as you know, IVA evolved into ETBI, Education and Training Boards Ireland. A special congress of this association in February 2013 agreed the name change on the recommendation of the restructuring task group, which Standing Council had set up, arising from a motion of Congress last year. That task group has reviewed the administration and governance structures of the new body and has already issued an interim report, which envisages a 32-member National Council. In time, a full suite of proposals will be presented to a national conference of the ETBs, special conference, Congress of the ETBs, for adoption, so that the reformation of ETBI can also be fully completed. The ETBs are not only composite of the former VECs. At the moment, that's what we're most familiar with, a number of VECs coming together in most cases. But we're also to be constituted from the FOSS training centres and the FOSS training division, which formed the training division, as I said, of FOSS. And those 16 centres will transfer in 3 tranches to ETBs over late 2013 and early 2014, at which time the training dimension of ETBs will be therefore fully comprehended. And we will, in true practical terms, be education and training boards. The establishment of SOLAS and the wind-up of FOSS is to be brought about by the Further Education and Training Act 2013, which also will define and has defined that relationship between ETBs and SOLAS. And there have been extensive consultations between the staff of FOSS, senior executives from ETBs, on that process and that relationship. And already we are involved in working on the strategic and advising on the strategic plan of SOLAS for 2014, because funding will transfer in 2014 that would currently come from government will go via SOLAS. And then the idea is the ETBs would have service level agreements with SOLAS. So they are going through a very big transformation process. And SOLAS, be very clear, is not FOSS Mark II for a very practical reason. FOSS is training division. It trains people. That division is going to you. That's going to the ETBs. FOSS will have about 120 to 115 or thereabouts staff that will be involved in research, strategic planning, oversight, funding, a whole range of things. That's very good news for our sector, because our PLC sector has always been on the shadows, in the sidelines. Further education has never been centre stage. So now we have a mentor, we have a champion as well as ourselves. We have a real national champion for further education and training. And that's a huge dimension, a huge transformational change for all of us as well, because you will be deliverers of the training. We'll work in partnership with SOLAS and government in targeting the needs of the unemployed, job seekers and other learners. And the fact that our CEOs are engaged with SOLAS on the development of that strategic plans should assure all of us who were worried last year that the mission and the values that the VEC had would be lost by a different set of values under education and training, under FOSS. And I have to say, from all the meetings we've had with them, they have certainly taken on board our views and worked very closely with us, and we're delighted with the way things are going. The further education then is as you know, there was an increase and we were concerned at a council level, and we've written to the minister, we've raised it many times about the cap in PLC, or not the cap, excuse me, the increase in the PTR of PLCs as well. That could be a target again this year, and there is a motion on that coming up, motion number 4 on that tomorrow, or today perhaps. So another significant theme of recent government policy has been the diversity of school patronage. And parental surveys and expressions of interest were the usual tools used by the Department of Education and Skills to select patrons of new schools. ETBI was unhappy with the promotional expenditure ceiling, which prevented the effective promotion of newer school models, such as the Community National School. And a derisory ceiling of €300, you know, you wouldn't print a leaflet, 500 leaflets for that today. Very difficult to promote a new model and promote it to parents when they're not aware of it, when other patrons are so far down the road in terms of profile, in terms of been up and running for years. In terms of, and that's all clarified in our annual report as well, the meetings in respect of that. In terms of policy development, ETBI has produced a number of sectoral position papers on various topics. And we've been involved in developing the generic website for community national schools as well as individual schools dealing with that particular area of our community national schools. And to complement Deirdre Keogh and others who were heavily involved, Paul and others from our staff who were heavily involved in that. So there's a generic cns.ie as well also. And some of the other websites we have as well, data protection website, we tendered for that. It's a bit technical, but it's extremely important for our schools and centres, and that will be launched shortly as well. And others outside that we're involved in, I want you some of the achievements we've achieved over the last year. We're involved in a European project called SmartVet. You'll see that outside with fast track information technology and a number of VECs as well. We've done a lot of conferencing and training for our pensions staff. We've worked with the conference on John Marcus O'Sullivan. We have produced child protection guidelines. We have worked on guidelines for career guidance in schools. We have a business education forum where our next one is on the 3rd of October, where we have significant people from the education sector and significant people from the business sector communicating with each other. A small conference we're having, we'll be sending out a note of that as well on the 3rd of October. The question is education and training answering the needs of industries, kind of for and against? We've done board and management training all over the country. I want to compliment Pat and Matty for that as well. And when I start, I'm absolutely scared I leave out somebody, but all my staff, and Deirdre Keogh for developing and editing this annual report as well. We've made submissions on school costs, on SUSI, on cyberbullying, on junior cycle reform, on apprenticeships, PLCs, and a whole lot of, obviously, on aggregation and integration as well. So we've made a number of significant submissions, and all those are included in the annual report. I mentioned two other important for us and for our image in the ETB sector as well, is the instructional leadership programme. And that's been an outstanding success, led by Joan Russell and her team from Cork, where we train people twice a year, 2 large weekly sessions each year. This is led by our sector. This is extremely important. Led by our sectors with teachers from all sectors. The voluntary secondary schools, the community schools, our own, and the primary schools. And as Noel knows himself, he's opened that conference many times. This happens in the hotel in Tullow, where I live near, and I can't think of it, however it's called, but Mount Wolseley. And so that's been an outstanding success. And I want to thank Joan and her team for that as well. I want to thank people like Mary Griffin and others who were involved in the John Marcus O'Sullivan Summer School, because these are very, very important also. Thank the conferencing and education and training conferencing. I want to thank the staff that have done that themselves off their own bat inside. My HR department as well. And I said earlier this morning I'm nearly finished now, but it's important I just say these things. I said this morning to our standing council that how ETBI or the sector has been transformed and changed over the last number of years. And a sign of that is when the Department of Education Skills come looking for your staff. And they've done just that for 2 of my staff at the moment. Nessa Doyle, who's our HR manager, is now working, still employed by us, working with us, but will be working closely with the units in the department as part of that unit on the integration, to assist in the integration of the ETBs or the VCs into the ETBs and dealing with the trade unions. Gwen Moore, who's been dealing with procurement and public sector reform, has gone to the public sector reform, that office that's been set up for 3 days a week. And the department have replaced both of those with staff, seconded staff. Patricia McDermott is there at the moment. And I want to thank Carlo Kilkenny ETB for seconding Patricia to us as well. So that's a sign of the calibre of staff that we have. I'm very proud of them, and I'm sure you are very proud of that as well. We brought in a legal support division as well that works with the HRIR and legal as one unit. And we have Niamh Cannell, who's our barrister. She works with all your staff. This all happens beneath the surface. Perhaps as members you mightn't see that, but certainly the admin staff and the HR staff are very familiar with all those names. And we've provided huge expansion of our services to our member ETBs. And that's the way it should be. ETBI, you are the stakeholders, you are the shareholders, we serve you. That's the way it has to be. I want to finally, before I finish up, to thank Noel O'Connor, my officers, my standing council executive, and their leadership and their insight. And you can't beat the insight, knowledge and skills that are picked up on the road really by so many of you and those of us who are involved, my treasurers and other, from dealing with all the problems of society and whatever. And it gives a great sense of balance to what we do as an executive, and that counterbalance is important. It's important that we have the insight, wisdom and knowledge, not of our chief executive officers, of all other staff, education officers. We value their support on our executives and our committee for executive support and others. We value that integration. And for us as an executive as well, this integration has been so important for us that we work as a team and work together. Thanking as well the Trojan work of CEO and President Paddy Lavelle and Secretary Martin O'Brien, and as I said, the CEOs and EOs for their support today and support every day for our members. Now, last year's annual report, I predicted that the following 12 months would witness wholesale sectoral transformation, and that's well underway with the enactment then of the 2 acts, and I'll finish second last point. We have the Education and Training Board Act, which is passed and you're familiar with. But another act, the Further Education and Training Act, is passed and yet to be implemented. And that's the act that governs SOLAS, the establishment of SOLAS and that relationship with ETBs. And that will be, I think, enacted in October. And the success then of that reform will certainly be dependent, as I said, on 2 things, on staffing really and on the resources, that we have that. And that's coming across tomorrow in the President's speech as well. Every ship needs a crew, and how these new structures are staffed will determine the success or otherwise of reform. 12 months from now, I'll be writing again, and the benefit of hindsight will allow a real judgment on whether or not it has been worthwhile. Before I finish, I have here Tom Ponsonby from Excite Communications, and they have developed for us our new website, which will be going, we were going to go live now, but we need the website because journalists and others, our website is very active at the moment, and we couldn't do with one confusing people, so we're going to launch this hopefully when the Minister visits again, as we hopefully will happen the next 4 to 5 weeks at our headquarters. I want to thank Tom for his professional advice and support, for Irish public bodies who actually funded this, and they certainly did that and funded and helped us with that, for Cynthia Dean, who is in charge of really and has led the whole, the CEO and Carlo Kilkenny, who has led the whole corporate development of a corporate image, whether it is the logo or in the websites and all the rest of it. So I can see it here now, but my eyesight isn't as good. But anyway, is there anything I need to say there? Is there anything else? No. But it is there. It is going active, and we'll let you know when it is live and active. It's going to be a very, very professional website. The front, and then there's a members section which will be added to this for our staff as well. An awful lot of the website that happens with staff sharing experiences and knowledge is behind the scenes, behind the door. You can't see it, But that all goes on as well. That's so important. I'm glad that Tom came to be with us today. It's very important that that you were here and that you recognise that. We're delighted to have worked with you. We think it worked out very, very well.